Can you be in a relationship and still be healing? Can you be troubled with core wounds from your past and be in a relationship? It's a great question. I get that question often. People want to know, can I still be in this state of healing and actually be in a relationship? Can I be seen in a relationship? Can I be fully present in a relationship? Can I love openly, be in a relationship if I'm still healing? Well, the answer is yes and. You see, it requires a great deal of strength, awareness, understanding of self, and willingness, not only from you, but from your partner. Now, that doesn't mean that your partner can do the healing for you. It doesn't mean that your partner will heal you. It doesn't even mean that they will bear and carry the load of whatever your burden is. But it does mean they can support you. It does mean they can witness you and see you. There is great healing in witnessing shame. You know, the shame story is a part of so many of our stories around trauma, around pain, around dense experiences that we've had. You see, here's the thing. Sometimes we need to be on our own. Sometimes we need to have that space in solitude. Not isolation, but solitude. We need to know and understand what is it like to live in our own skin. Some people have had an upbringing where everything has been done for them. And when the going gets tough, they run. But you see, that pattern is just on repeat. You get into a relationship in that limerence phase, the honeymoon period, where it's all fun, it's all good, it's easy. You know, there's a hormonal rush. We have a polarized view of what's happening in the relationship. But then when that wears down and the hormones shift between us and within us, we start to see ourselves and the other differently. We start to see the relationship differently. We start to think, but at the beginning it wasn't like this. Why are they changing? Why are they being different now? And really, it's not so much that you're both changing or being different. It's that we had the blinkers on. And then we break up and we go on repeat. And you see, we're never really doing deeper healing. There are moments in our lives where we have to reach this foundational standard, internal standard. It's a subjective standard. It's not an objective thing that we can measure against. It's our own sense of, yeah, I'm ready to be in a relationship. I've done enough work around myself. I have enough awareness. I carry enough insight. I feel free enough that I can be in relationship. And the key is that, can you be in relationship and still be triggered? Because that's normal. It's common to be triggered in relationship. But can you be in relationship and be willing to recover from that trigger? Now, to be willing means we have to accept and take responsibility and ownership of our part, of our contribution. In fact, of our shadow and our pain. And so if we take ownership and responsibility, in order to do that, we have to know ourselves. We have to know what our core wounds and what our pain points are. So many young people particularly, and not just younger or young people, but so many people that are not mature in their own sense of development, that aren't aware of their core wounds, that haven't acknowledged the trauma that they've experienced, continue to go and into relationship and attract people that fuel that trauma. Not because they're doing something wrong, but the attraction in that person that fuels your trauma, it's a gift actually. It's a gift that can heal you because it's recreating a scenario or a similar set of circumstances that allow you to respond differently to the trauma that you're accustomed to. So if you respond differently, you can live differently through it. You can heal that wounded, unattended part of you in such a way that feels liberating. You see, if we always do what we've always done, we'll always get what we've always got. And so understanding that and knowing that we have to be different in certain circumstances to heal those old parts of ourselves that are in pain and that are scared, that are wearing masks and that are highly protected by the parts of ourselves just trying to stay safe. If we're on that constant alert, fight, flight response, we're in that survival mode, we're going to attract people in our lives that will enable that within us. Now, that's not necessarily a bad thing, but if they're aware and you're aware, then you have an opportunity to work through that differently to how you have in the past. You see, in the past, as a young person, developmentally, it's just all about survival. And so the protective strategy isn't one of thriving. It's one of just let's get the job done, no matter what it takes. It doesn't matter what the outcome is. It doesn't matter what negative effect occurs down the line. We just have to survive now. But we keep playing that out in our relationships. It becomes a neurological pattern that's very familiar, and it becomes a habit, a behavioral crux that we rely on because we just know what it is. So can you be in a relationship and still be healing? Absolutely you can. But you have to be aware of yourself, of your core wounds. You have to know what triggers you. You have to be willing to look into the depths of your own being, and you have to be willing to support your partner through their stuff, to be compassionate, to be empathetic, to hold space, to show up. You know, those terms that we sometimes hear, hold space, show up. What does that actually mean? It means we have to do our own inner work. We have to be responsible for ourselves. Now, sometimes doing our own inner work, it's a little chaotic and it's a little intense. In fact, a little intense and a little chaotic is an understatement. And so being with someone else and for them to hold that depth of intensity for you it's a big ask. I remember in my life and my previous relationships where I was quite unaware and I was really deep in my shadow without knowing it because we can't see the forest through the trees often. I would project a great deal. See, that's a sign of a relationship that isn't ready or someone that isn't ready to be in a relationship when we project and shame and blame others consistently. We don't take ownership of our part. We can't stop and be humble enough and say, okay, I'm overreacting here. I'm being triggered here. This is my little boy coming out. This is the part of me that doesn't like confrontation. This is the part of me that runs. My attachment style is avoidant, whatever it may be. And so I was blaming everyone else and not seeing what I was being and what I was doing. And how can it ever work? How can it ever flourish? How can you break through old patterns? We just cycle and rinse and repeat. And not only is that boring, it's also very painful and destructive. We're just going to critique each other because you're shaming someone else for how you're feeling. It's another codependent behavior. So when people are coming together, they have to have cleared up a lot of old stuff that's intense and painful and dense. And I think that's a rite of passage for people. I think it's a rite of passage. I know it has been a rite of passage for me. It's almost like I can wear that as a badge of honor, not with arrogance, but with humility, but with awareness and say, hey, I bring this to the table. I don't just bring social status or wealth or some level of intelligence or whatever it may be, but I bring this coherence around who I am, this awareness around who I am, this intelligence around me. Now, I'm not perfect and I'm going to keep doing work on myself. However, I'm not going to be in that intense stage of unraveling myself. And I'm not going to be doing that in front of you because then what we're doing is we're asking our partners to be our parents. We're asking our partners to be our therapists. And your partner is not your parent and they are not your therapist. So there has to be some level of independence and interdependence that works in harmony. But it cannot work in harmony when you're healing deeply. That's a problem. Well, it's only a problem when you keep choosing to go into a relationship and you ignore that issue that's deep within you. So can you be in a relationship and still be healing? Yes, you can. And you have to spend solo time on your own, discovering who you are, your values, your needs, your wants, what you're attracted to, what you love, what you want to repel, what doesn't interest you, what is you. So you can bring the fullness of that into a relationship and unravel with someone in a harmonious, loving, open, transparent, authentic way because you've done your deeper work. So we have to do a level of deep work before we can move into a relationship, and you will know what that is because more than likely you would have been to hell and back. Power and blessings to you. Thank you for being here. I'll see you again soon.